There are many formatting options available to make a schedule more legible and to enhance its usefulness as an editing tool. In this movie, we'll take a look at several ways to manipulate the way that our schedule is grouped, sorted, and displayed. I'm in a file called Modifying Schedules, and I have both the Level 1 Furniture Plan open and the Furniture Schedule. And in the previous movie, we talked about how these two views were tiled next to one another, so if you're not sure how to do that, you can go back and review that there. Now, another thing I've done here is I've gone ahead and filled in the type mark of all of the furniture items. And as you can see, if you look at this a little bit more carefully, they're not in any particular order. By default, a schedule will report the items in the order that they were added to the model. So there's no particular sorting going on automatically unless you tell it otherwise. So what we're going to look at right now is how we can start to sort the schedule in some more logical ways to make our information a little bit more usable. So if you've got this schedule view selected here, what you want to notice is, like other views, if there's no objects selected, the properties palette will reflect the view. So notice that the properties palette here says schedule at the top. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there's some buttons here. These buttons correspond to the tabs in the Schedule Properties dialog. If I click the Edit button next to Sorting and Grouping, you'll see that the Schedule Properties dialog appears, and I have several criteria that I can potentially sort by. Now, the very first sort criteria has a list here. It currently says none, so we're not being sorted. And when I open that list, you can see that there are 3 items there. The items that appear in the list are the fields that you've added to your schedule. So those are the items that you can sort by. Now, of course, the count column is not included because it wouldn't make sense to sort by that. But the other fields are available as a sort criteria. So in this case, since I've filled in all the type marks, I'm going to choose that as my sort criteria. Now, if I simply click OK with that, you'll see that everything now sorts alphanumerically based on the type mark field. Now, there's lots more that we can do to that. So let's just go back to the Edit Type here. Let me just move this out of the way slightly. And let's take a look at some of the other options. For example, I could put a header at the top of each of those sort criteria. And when we click OK on that, you're going to see B1 appear here and B2 here above the 2 beds. And in that case, it might feel a little bit redundant, but you can see here for the Breuer chairs that C1 appears, and then there's several instances of that. Now, it's all a little bit close together. So if I go back to Edit again, there's this option here to add a blank line. And when I click OK with that, it kind of spreads everything out a little bit. So that maybe makes it slightly more legible there. Now, there's lots more we can do in sorting and grouping. So let's edit it one more time. And let's talk about totaling. Now, at the very bottom here, you can check this box to add a grand total at the bottom of your schedule. Now, the total can be formatted in a variety of ways. So choose the one that you like best. I'll just choose the default here. Let's click OK. And to see that grand total, I'm going to scroll down on the schedule, and you can see that I have a grand total of 26 items. Let's verify that that total is correct. So I'm going to come over here into the floor plan view, and I'm going to make a crossing selection through the entire floor plan. That highlights everything. Then I'll come up here to the filter button and click the filter. And if you look in the count column next to each category, you'll see here there's the furniture category. And you say, wait a minute, Paul, that only says 16. It says 26 down there. Well, Revit's throwing us a slight curveball here. You see these tables here in the background? That table family includes 6 nested chair families. So there's a single furniture item called table and chairs, but it includes actually the 7 items, 1 table and 6 chairs. Here's our clue right here. If you look at furniture tags, you can see that that says 26. So it's showing us that every piece of furniture is being tagged, and that matches our total right there. So they got a little tricky on us right there, but the total is in fact correct. Now, you may say, well, okay, that's great, but do I really need to see 4 instances of the same table or however many 12 instances of the same chair? And, you could probably argue that that's a little bit redundant. So let's click in the schedule again, come back over here to sorting and grouping. And instead of showing each item individually, we can uncheck this box and turn off the itemize every instance. And then when we do, they'll collapse down to a single entry for each item. And notice now that our count column is filling in to show us how many of each item we have. Furthermore, when I click on that item in the schedule, notice that it highlighted over in the floor plan, and it highlighted all 10 chairs. If I click on the nightstand, it will highlight all 4 nightstands. pretty powerful, but also could be a little bit dangerous. I wouldn't press the delete key right now, for example, because you'd be deleting all 4 of those items, or any edit you made would also apply to all 4 of those items. But that may also be exactly what you're looking for. Now, at this point, this redundancy is really evident because I've got both a header and then the entry. So I really want to turn off one or the other of those. So let's look at our 2 options. We could go back to sorting and grouping, and we could certainly just turn off the header. If we do that, then we just have the type mark listed in its own row. Or if you want to keep the header, what you can do instead is click over here to the Formatting tab, select that type mark, and make it a hidden field. Now, you can't go to Fields and actually remove the type mark. If you do, you'll no longer be able to sort on it. So if you want to sort on the type mark, it's got to be a field. So you want to make sure you go to Formatting and make it hidden. So when I click OK, now I get the header, and it's right above the entry of the item, and that whole column has been hidden now. Now, there's some other formatting that we can do, and you can do some of this formatting back in the dialog, but actually, if you look up at the ribbon, you can see that there's lots of buttons up on the ribbon, and some of this you can do directly in the schedule itself. For example, if I want to bold the headers here, I can just drag through those 3 header columns, click on this font button right here, and check the bold box. And when I click OK, and let's deselect somewhere else, you'll see that those turn bold. If you click on letter B here above the count column, that will highlight the entire column. Notice that all the furniture is currently selected in the schedule. So again, be careful. Don't press the delete key or anything like that. You see the align horizontal here? We've got 3 choices. So we could center align it, or we could right align it. Now, considering that that's a numerical field, I think right align makes the most sense there. Now I'm going to deselect by clicking into some other field. So I'm going to click in that count column and go to the alignment, and I'm going to make it center again to match the other 2 headers, but notice that the numbers are staying to the right. So as you can see, there's lots of different settings that we can tweak to customize the way that our schedule is behaving. The goal is to take what you see in the schedule and make it more legible and easier to understand, and to make it easier to work with so that you can use it as a proper editing tool to help you modify the elements in your project.